Welcome to the conversation on the Young Turks Network. We got a great guest for you guys. He sounds like he's running for Joe Kennedy's old seat He just left to run for Senate in Massachusetts. It's Massachusetts 4th District, US Congress. Issans, welcome to the Young Turks.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to have this conversation with you.
So you kidding me? I'm excited. You might soon be a congresswoman. Cross your fingers. Now, the reason I say that is because Issans is the most progressive candidate in that race. So let's talk about the race a little bit. Is there still 9 of you running? And so tell me about who's running for this seat and how it's playing out.
Well, there's 8 of them, 1 of me running for this seat. A huge field of corporate complacent politicians who are seeking a career in politics and who don't necessarily come with the lived experiences and the professional experiences needed to serve this district. This is a hugely gerrymandered district, and what I say by gerrymandered is not in the way of blue versus red, but of top versus down. We have a few towns who are, some of the richest towns in the country, coupled with some of the poorest towns in the Commonwealth. And that means we need somebody who can serve the working families in the district who have been underrepresented and silenced for generations. And I look forward to being that person for District 4 and for my constituents.
So I read that even though a lot of the people you're running against are moguls, business people. I mean, these are like corporate Democrat 101 stuff. I think that people running against you have like 5 Harvard degrees in the combined, et cetera. It's a very standard Democratic establishment stuff, but that you outraised them in the last quarter. Is that true?
So a lot of what I have done on this campaign was to create a coalition of grassroots through funding and through volunteers. But as you know, with COVID-19, campaigns like ours have been suffering from lack of fundraising. And you've run for Congress before, and you understand how hard it is to fundraise. But it's really a time for us to think about how we can truly fight for a true progressive win in Congress and beyond. And that means putting every privilege that we have as individuals forward. Just like you ask everybody to donate to the campaign, you can donate to your own campaign. But what sets us apart is that we are running on the values of fighting for the most vulnerable in our communities. And I am more than proud to be in a position to fight for them with everything that I have, with my time, with my money, with my success, and everything that I have to give for them.
Okay, again, we're very clear about our perspective here. So I'm hoping we get lucky and Issans wins. So Issans.org is the website. Speaking of raising money, so we're not playing, and you could find the links down below. So obviously it's ihssane.org. I love how I say obviously, that's not at all obvious. But donating and volunteering links are also in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Okay, so Issans, let's talk about why you decided to run. What did you do before this and what made you want to get into politics?
Well, look, I came to this country as a 20-year-old with nothing. And I survived poverty in the richest country in the world. Part of that was taking sub-minimum wage jobs, facing sexual harassment and wage theft, and not having a union to protect me as an immigrant who, as you know, restaurant workers aren't unionized in our country. And more so is that my lived experiences in this country have taught me what does it feel like to be oppressed in a system that has so much wealth and resources. What does it feel like that millions of Americans don't have health insurance? Many are living on the streets. Many have lost their jobs during this pandemic and lost their health insurance with that. And so I vowed that I will build power to dismantle these oppressive systems and build the America that I dreamed of since I was a little 3-year-old sexual abuse survivor. And I've been doing that since I got here. I not only served in the restaurants and babysat the babies, but I also fought the biggest corporations on Wall Street, the biggest banks who had gotten blank bailout checks after the 2008 financial crisis, to hold their CEOs accountable, to stop them from distributing big bonuses and big money to shareholders, and instead to save money for rainy days so that they can bail themselves out in case of another economic depression. But the problem is that when Trump took office, he not only threatened our communities, and especially myself being an immigrant, being a woman of color, being a Muslim person, or a corporate greed fighter, which is why I call myself his worst nightmare, and I'm proud to be that. But he also dismantled the safety programs that we had put together to fight for the working families. And a lot of the corporate Democrats sided with him. Congressman Joe Kennedy was taking money from the same banks that I was regulating. And so, I decided to fight harder. I decided to no longer stay in an organization that was going through a difficult time, right? The Federal Reserve at the time was Trump threatened to end its existence when I was working there. Red flags started to become orange flags. I couldn't sit from within and see the revolving door between our regulatory agencies, the Wall Street and the White House. I could not stand watching the corruption happen in front of my eyes and be silenced. So I took to organizing. I organized for Medicare for All, for a Green New Deal. I organized to get money out of politics, and this campaign has been a bridge between organizing on the streets and organizing politically, so we can realize this political revolution together.
Issans, you said something interesting there. Normally, when you're running for somebody's seat like Joe Kennedy's, politicians are reluctant to criticize the person who was there. But you just said that you were fighting against the corporate greed of the people that Joe Kennedy was representing, if I heard you right. So what's your take on Kennedy?
Well, I don't know if you know, but I was his challenger. I ran against him months before I had any idea he was gonna run for Senate. I wish he had stayed and faced it. But as we see, there's an unnecessary challenge in the state at this point. And my take is that we need less career politicians. We need less dynasty names. And we need more people who have lived the lived experiences of the working families to fight boldly for anti-racist policies like Medicare for All, like the Green New Deal, like universal childcare, like $2,000 a month throughout the pandemic and beyond, and more. And that's gonna take people who have lived it and who understand the struggle and who are committed to delivering no matter the circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a huge change, going from Joe Kennedy, who was a classic corporate Democrat with a giant name, and it comes from a dynasty family, to a young immigrant who came here with nothing, Muslim American, and fighting for progressive values. So it's a really interesting election. Did I mention Issans.org? I think I mentioned it. Did I mention the links are down below? I think I did. If you don't run on corporate money, you need people like you guys to deliver for these candidates. And if you do, as you saw with Jamal Bowman and AOC and so many others, it can actually work. In fact, one of those Just Democrats endorsed you, Ilhan Omar. How much of an impact has that had, Issans?
a huge impact. We already had hundreds of volunteers on the campaign, but the phones have not stopped ringing. We have phone banks going on every day, but it's not just the impact on the mechanics of the campaign. It's the impact on the movement. Her being a leader in the Black Lives Matter movement and really providing a safe space for her community to decide for itself, to defund the police, and to push for policies that are anti-racist. She leads by example, and she has been an inspiration to me. She's also she's a refugee from Africa. She's a sister in the struggle, and she's a true fighter. And I would be honored to serve along her side.
Issans, real quick, we got less than a minute left. I know you immigrated here. Can you tell us real quick how that came about and why? Where'd you come from and why did your family choose to come to America?
You're asking the hardest question. It was a long story and it deserves a longer interview. But look, I grew up to a family where my father was a public school teacher. My mom was a farmer. I lost my father when I was only 13 because we couldn't afford his health to take care of his heart condition. And coming to America was a very, very far dream. People like me don't get a visa to come here. So it was a miracle to actually get that visitor visa and be able to become a student here and then get a green card and then citizenship. And people who are listening understand how much paperwork and scrutiny people have to go through to get that citizenship and be truly, hopefully accepted as an American.
Yeah, so I like to give people nicknames. So congrats, you're now the American dream. And
not yet. We will realize it together in Congress. Yes.
No, already what you've accomplished is amazing. And so this is what America looks like now, and I love it. Issans.org is the website. Issans, like you're running for Congress in Massachusetts 4th District. Thank you so much for being on the Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.